My son-in-law thought I was just an old fool. At dinner, he asked me about my safe, smiling like it was a joke. But later that night, I heard him whisper on the phone, "The old man's loaded. We'll be gone by Thursday." He didn't know I was listening. He didn't know I'd set a trap in the very drawer he planned to rob. At 3 a.m., when glitter exploded all over his face, justice finally sparkled. This is my story. Stay with me. Like this video, subscribe, and watch to the end. I've always thought of myself as a man of habits. At 66, my days had a rhythm, a comfort that came from years of living alone after my wife passed. Morning coffee at 6, reading the newspaper at the kitchen table, a walk around the block with a wave to Mrs. Alvarez next door. I cooked simple meals, kept my house tidy, and spent quiet evenings with a book or the news. Life wasn't exciting, but it was steady, and steady was what I liked. When my daughter Emma called me 3 months ago, her voice was trembling. She said her husband Tyler had lost his job. They were behind on their mortgage. They needed a place to stay, just until he got back on his feet. I didn't hesitate. "Of course," I told her. "This house is your home, too." She cried with relief. She has always been my little girl, and even though she's 32 now, I still want to protect her from every storm. I wish I could say my welcome was pure generosity, but the truth is, I also longed for her company. The house had grown too quiet. I missed the sound of laughter in the evenings, the warmth of family dinners. Letting Emma and Tyler move in felt like giving my life some color again. But from the very first handshake at the door, I knew Tyler was different. His smile was polite, but his eyes, they weren't looking at me. They were scanning my living room, my furniture, the walls. "Nice place," he said, his hand gripping mine firmly. "Must be worth quite a bit in today's market." At first I brushed it off as nervous chatter, but over the next weeks little things piled up. Tyler asked questions no normal guest would. He wanted to know which neighbors were retired, who was home during the day, whether I kept cash in the house. He laughed about how old-fashioned I was for still going to the bank in person. "You should trust online systems," he said, shaking his head like I was a relic. Emma, on the other hand, was grateful and sweet. She slipped back into the rhythms of the house, easily helping with dishes, chatting about her new job at the library, hugging me goodnight like she used to when she was a teenager. I could see the stress in her eyes, but she believed in her husband. Every time I raised an eyebrow at one of his remarks, she rushed to defend him. "He's just trying to adjust, Dad." Give him time. I wanted to believe her. For her sake, I tried. But Tyler's tone toward me carried something sharp, something dismissive. He called me sir in front of Emma, but old man when she wasn't listening. Once, when I forgot to turn off the porch light, he smirked and said, "Guess the memory's not what it used to be." Emma laughed nervously and told him not to tease, but the sting stayed with me. I began to notice how he maneuvered small moments of favoritism. If I bought something for the house, a new coffee maker, for example, he'd tell Emma, "See, your dad likes you best. He doesn't trust me with these decisions." He'd say it like a joke, but I could tell he was planting seeds, trying to make me look like I played favorites. The disrespect wasn't always loud. Sometimes it was just a glance, a pause too long at my bedroom door, a question about my will or my insurance that had no place in casual talk. Other times it was sharper. One night, during dinner, Emma complimented my pot roast. Tyler put his fork down and said, "Well, enjoy it while it lasts. When something happens to your dad, who knows if you'll ever get meals like this again." The room went cold. Emma scolded him. "That's a horrible thing to say." But he laughed it off, claiming it was just dark humor. I forced a smile, but inside, my chest tightened. It wasn't just a joke. It was a slip, a glimpse of what he really thought about my future. I kept telling myself not to make waves. Emma had been through so much stress already with his job loss. She looked tired, thinner than I remembered, and I didn't want to burden her with more worry. If I pushed too hard against Tyler, I feared she'd side with him, and I couldn't bear losing her trust. So, I held my tongue, swallowed my doubts, and played the part of the accommodating father-in-law. But the longer they stayed, the more my house felt less like mine. Tyler spread his belongings into every corner, left his shoes in the hallway, took long showers that emptied my hot water tank. He called it making himself at home, but it felt more like staking a claim. My private sanctuary, the home I'd built with my late wife, was no longer safe. And Emma remained blind to it all. She believed Tyler was unlucky, not untrustworthy. She told me more than once, "Dad, you're so hard on him. He's just under pressure. You always notice the worst in people." I didn't argue. What could I say? That I saw the way her husband looked at my locked closet? That I heard the way his voice hardened when she wasn't in the room? Every day I told myself, wait, watch, collect the truth. Because one thing I knew for certain, Tyler wasn't just a struggling man looking for help. He was something else entirely. And the more I watched him, the more I understood. His eyes weren't on my daughter's future. They were on my past, my savings, my security, my peace. And sooner or later, he would try to take it all. Sunday dinners had always been sacred in my home. Ever since Emma was little, I made it a tradition: pot roast, mashed potatoes, and green beans on the side. Even after my wife passed, I kept that habit alive. Food, I always believed, was more than nourishment. It was trust, it was love, it was family. That's why what happened that Sunday still stings. The three of us sat at the dining table, the golden light of the chandelier soft above us. Emma was laughing about something at the library, her hands moving as she told a story about children's story hour. For a moment, I almost forgot Tyler was sitting across from me. Almost, because then, between bites of roast, he leaned forward with that practiced smile of his and said, "So Frank, that safe upstairs, what kind of lock does it have?" The fork froze in my hand. My stomach tightened. Emma nearly choked on her water. "Tyler? What kind of question is that?" But Tyler didn't look embarrassed. His eyes stayed locked on mine, waiting. It wasn't curiosity. It was something predatory, something cold. I set my fork down carefully, buying myself a few seconds. My voice came out steady, but every nerve in me was screaming. "Just curious about home security, huh?" He spread his hands innocently. "Well, sure. With all the break-ins in the area lately." "Break-ins?" I interrupted. "I've lived here 15 years, Tyler. The most we've had is Mrs. Alvarez's cat stuck in a tree." He waved a hand. "Oh, you probably don't hear about them. People keep it quiet, don't want to start panic." Emma glanced at me, nervous. "Dad's always been careful about locking up." Tyler pounced on her words. "Right. But what about insurance? If something happened to you..." He looked right at me. "God forbid. Emma would need to know where everything important is kept, wouldn't she?" His pupils widened as he said it. His fingers tapped the table. He wasn't making small talk. He was probing, pushing for cracks. "I have everything organized," I said evenly. "Emma knows what she needs to know." He smiled wider, but his eyes darkened. "But does she know about the key?" The room went silent. Emma's brow furrowed. "What key?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "And how exactly do you know about any key in my bedroom?" For a split second his mask slipped. His face went cold, calculating. Then just as quickly he smoothed it over with a chuckle. "Last week. Headache so bad I thought I'd split in two. Emma told me to check your bathroom cabinet for aspirin. I must have opened the wrong drawer by accident. Sorry. Didn't mean to invade your privacy." Emma nodded eagerly. "I remember that night. You were really suffering, Tyler." I remembered it, too. He'd been gone from the table nearly 30 minutes. Claimed stomach troubles. Long enough to do more than fumble for aspirin. "The aspirin's always been in the medicine cabinet," I said quietly. "Always." His jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Must have been out of it from the pain. I let it drop for Emma's sake. But I was boiling inside. The conversation limped on after that, but Tyler kept circling back. He asked about my bank, about who else had keys to the house, about what time I usually went to bed. Each question was like a finger pressing against a bruise, testing for weakness. When dinner ended, Emma jumped up. "Dad, I'll do the dishes tonight. You cooked." I shook my head. "I don't mind. It's my routine." Truth was, I needed the distraction of washing and drying, something steady to calm my mind. "Come on, honey," Tyler said, already pulling Emma toward the stairs. "Let your dad relax. We should get some rest. They disappeared into the guest room, their door shut. I stood at the sink, hands moving automatically, wash, rinse, dry, while my thoughts replayed every second of dinner. He had mentioned a key he shouldn't know existed. He had casually spoken about my death in front of my daughter, as if he'd rehearsed it. He was planning something, and I had ignored the signs for too long. By the time the last plate was put away, my chest felt heavy with a truth I could no longer deny. Tyler wasn't just an opportunist. He wasn't just a man down on his luck. He was a predator circling prey, and the prey was me. As I turned off the kitchen light, I told myself something I hadn't said aloud in years. This is my house, and if Tyler thought he could take it from me, he had no idea who he was dealing with. That night I didn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, the echo of Tyler's words pounding in my ears. But does she know about the key? The way he said it so casual, so confident, made my blood run cold. He wasn't guessing. He knew. And then, just before midnight, I heard it. Footsteps. Not Emma's light tread, but something heavier, deliberate. I froze, slowing my breathing, listening. The steps moved through the living room, toward the front of the house. Then his voice drifted up through the heating vent, a hushed whisper. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole thing. Serious money here." I clenched my jaw. I'd been right. He wasn't just poking around, he had already been through my private papers. And worse, he wasn't working alone. "Tomorrow night's perfect," Tyler continued. "Emma's at her book club from 7 to 9. I already have the safe key. The old fool keeps everything in there. Cash, jewelry, documents. We're set." I slid my phone from the nightstand, trembling as I opened the voice recorder. I pressed record, capturing every word. "I've got debts, you know that," he said, his voice sharper now. "Those guys aren't patient. If this doesn't happen soon, I'm in serious trouble." My stomach tightened. Gambling debts. That explained everything. His nervous phone calls, his sudden job loss, the endless questions about money. I let the recording run until the call ended. Then I lay there, phone clutched in my hand, pulse racing. He was planning to rob me the next night. He thought he had the perfect alibi. Emma's absence. And he thought I was too old, too trusting, too slow to notice. He was wrong. At sunrise, I was already moving. I made my coffee, fried my eggs, and sat at the kitchen table as if nothing had changed. When Emma came downstairs, she kissed my cheek and thanked me again for letting them stay. Tyler appeared 20 minutes later, hair wet, smile smug. He asked too casually, "What's on your agenda today, Frank? Bank run, maybe?" I met his gaze. Just a few errands, nothing exciting. A muscle twitched in his cheek. He smiled too widely. "Good, good. Careful's the word these days." I nodded, playing along. Let him think I was oblivious. Let him believe he had me fooled. But once I drove away from the house, I headed straight for the hardware store. My mind was already working, calculating, like it had in my years as an insurance investigator. I didn't just need to protect myself. I needed proof, something so clear that Emma couldn't deny who her husband really was. At the hardware store, I walked the aisles, my plan taking shape. First, I picked up a few basics: duct tape, batteries, a small toolbox. Then I stopped at the party supply section. Rows of balloons, streamers, confetti cannons. That's when the idea struck me. I picked up a spring-loaded confetti blaster and a bag of ultra-fine silver glitter. Not dangerous, but humiliating. A perfect marker. If Tyler wanted to sneak into my room and grab my safe key, he would walk out glowing like a disco ball. From there, I drove to Best Buy. I asked a young clerk about small, wireless security cameras with night vision. "Something simple," I said, "just for peace of mind." He showed me a compact model, no larger than a deck of cards. Motion activated, 8 hours of battery life, connected straight to my phone. Perfect. I paid in cash. Back home, I waited until Emma and Tyler left for groceries. Then I set to work in my workshop. I dismantled the confetti cannon, replaced the paper with glitter, adjusted the spring so it would trigger only if someone reached into the back of my dresser drawer. I tested it with a wooden spoon. Boom! Glitter everywhere. It clung to my hands, my shirt, the floor. Exactly what I wanted. Next, I prepared the bait. I found an old luggage key that looked enough like the safe key to fool someone in a hurry. I placed it at the front of the drawer, easy to spot. The real key I tucked away in a place Tyler would never think to look inside a jar of screws in the basement. By the time Emma and Tyler returned, my trap was ready. The glitter bomb sat armed inside the drawer, the dummy key waiting like cheese in a mousetrap. That night, after dinner, I excused myself early. Long day, I told them. Think I'll turn in. Tyler's eyes flicked up from his phone. He smiled. Rest well, Frank. You've earned it. I climbed the stairs slowly, deliberately, like an old man winding down for bed. But inside I was sharper than I'd been in years. My house was a chessboard now, and Tyler was making the next move. He thought tomorrow night would be his checkmate. He didn't know I'd already set the board in my favor. As I lay in the dark, my phone beside me, the new camera hidden in plain sight, and the glitter trap waiting, I felt the weight of what was coming. Tomorrow, Tyler would walk straight into the evidence I needed. Tomorrow, my daughter would see the truth with her own eyes. And tomorrow, my house would no longer feel like prey. It would feel like justice. The next morning, the house felt lighter. Maybe it was the spring sun warming the kitchen windows, or maybe it was the fact that I finally had a plan. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel like prey. I moved through my routine coffee, eggs, the paper with a steadiness I hadn't felt since Emma and Tyler moved in. Emma came down in her robe, yawning, her hair tied back loosely. She smiled at me and said, "Morning, Dad. You're up early." "I always am," I replied, handing her a mug. "Sleep well?" "Better than I have in weeks," she said. She reached across the table to squeeze my hand. That small gesture filled me with hope. Maybe she'd see through Tyler sooner than I thought. Maybe my plan was overkill. Tyler came down last, looking confident, almost smug. He kissed Emma on the cheek and plopped into his chair. "Beautiful day," he said, as if nothing was brewing beneath the surface. He poured himself coffee and glanced at me. "What's on the schedule today, Frank? Another round of errands?" "Maybe," I said. "Might check the hardware store again. Maybe the bank." I watched his eyes flicker at the word bank. He nodded too quickly. "Good idea. Can't be too careful with your age and all." Emma rolled her eyes. "Tyler, don't start." "I'm just saying," he protested, smiling at her but staring at me. "Older folks are targets these days." But I didn't let him rile me. I smiled back calmly, which seemed to throw him off. He leaned back in his chair, frowning, and I felt a flicker of relief. He wasn't as smooth as he thought. The day passed peacefully. Emma and I went for a walk. We talked about books, about her job at the library, about simple things. For a moment, I allowed myself to relax. Maybe the recording, the glitter trap, and the camera were more than I needed. Maybe Tyler would slip up without my help. That night, Emma suggested a family movie. We settled in on the couch with popcorn. She laughed at the film, resting her head on Tyler's shoulder. He played the role of devoted husband well, but I noticed how often his eyes darted toward me, measuring, calculating. Still, I kept my own expression soft, pretending I saw nothing. When the credits rolled, Emma kissed me goodnight and went upstairs. Tyler stayed behind. He poured himself a drink, then looked at me with what he probably thought was a warm smile. "Frank," he said, "you're a good man. Emma and I are lucky you let us stay here." I nodded politely. Family takes care of each other. He swirled the liquid in his glass, his tone shifting. "Speaking of care, you really should think about your will. Not to be morbid, but at your age, it's smart to make sure everything's in order. Emma deserves peace of mind." Relief evaporated like smoke. There it was again, the obsession with my money, my future, my death. "My affairs are in order," I said evenly. "Good, good," he said. But his jaw clenched as he downed the last of his drink. Later that night, as I prepared for bed, I found a piece of mail in the stack by the door addressed to Tyler. The envelope was thin, stamped final notice. I didn't open it, but I didn't need to. The red letters screamed louder than any words inside. Relief was crushed in that instant. Whatever debts he owed were real, and they were pressing. That explained his urgency, his desperation. And it confirmed what I already knew. He wouldn't stop. I went to bed with the envelope still in my hand, staring at the ceiling. I wanted to believe Emma was safe, that she was sheltered by my plan. But as the clock ticked past midnight, I realized Tyler's trap wasn't just aimed at me, it was pulling Emma deeper every day. She trusted him. She believed him. And that meant if I failed, she would be dragged into the same pit he was already sinking in. Relief was over. The storm was closer than ever. The morning after I found that final notice envelope, my decision was set in stone. There was no more room for hesitation. Tyler wasn't going to back off his debts, wouldn't let him. That meant I couldn't simply wait and hope. I had to be ready. I woke early, brewed coffee, and sat at the table with my notebook, something I hadn't used since my days investigating insurance fraud. Old habits kicked in. Dates, times, patterns. Every suspicious move Tyler had made went into neat bullet points. I wasn't just a retired widower anymore. I was building a case file. Emma shuffled down in her robe, hair messy, eyes still foggy from sleep. "Morning, Dad," she said softly. She poured herself coffee and smiled. For her sake, I kept my voice steady. "Morning, sweetheart." Ugh. But when Tyler came in, freshly showered, his eyes sharp and predatory, I saw the way he scanned the table, like he was checking whether I'd left a key lying around. My stomach turned, but I kept my face calm. Let him believe I was harmless. After breakfast, I told them I needed to run errands. Tyler offered to come along. "Save you the trouble, Frank," he said smoothly. "No need," I replied. "You two relax." As I backed out of the driveway, I caught him in the upstairs window, watching. Not the guest room window, the window to my bedroom. That sealed it. At the hardware store, I picked up spare batteries, duct tape, and fishing line. Then I drove back to Best Buy, where Marcus, the same clerk from before, showed me another wireless camera. "You setting up a whole system, sir?" he asked. "Something like that," I told him. I paid cash again. Back home, the timing was perfect. Emma and Tyler were out grocery shopping. I had the house to myself. I carried the new camera upstairs and placed it high on the bookshelf, angled at the dresser. My first camera was already hidden between books on the nightstand. 2 angles now. No chance of missing anything. Next came the glitter trap. I rechecked the confetti cannon, adjusting the spring so it wouldn't misfire. I poured in more of the ultra-fine glitter, silver and gold, the kind that clings to skin, hair, clothes. Once it exploded, Tyler would never be able to brush it all off. It would follow him for days, sticking like guilt itself. To make sure he wouldn't hesitate, I set the bait, the dummy key, placed perfectly where a thief's greedy fingers would lunge, and the real safe key, safely hidden inside a jar of old screws in the basement workshop. But I wasn't finished. The fishing line came next. I tied a strand to the inside of my dresser drawer, then secured the other end to the leg of the nightstand. If Tyler pulled the drawer too far, the line would snap loose and knock over a stack of old magazines I placed strategically. It was subtle, but it would give me audio confirmation that he'd gone deep enough into the drawer to trip the glitter bomb. I tested everything 3 times. Each test ended with my wooden spoon coated in sparkling dust, the cameras catching every angle, the magazines falling just as planned. My little house had become a stage, and Tyler was about to walk into his own performance. When Emma and Tyler returned, I was in the kitchen, humming like any ordinary retiree. Emma kissed my cheek and thanked me for watching the house. Tyler mumbled something about traffic, but his eyes darted toward the stairs again. That evening, Emma suggested we play cards. Tyler declined, saying he needed to make some job calls. I pretended not to notice how long he stayed outside, whispering on his phone. Later, he poured himself a drink and tried one of his manipulative bonding tactics. "Frank, I was thinking, maybe we should share a toast tonight. Family time, you know?" I shook my head. "Doctor's orders. No alcohol with my pills." Emma nodded in agreement. Tyler's smile flickered, just for a second before he masked it. He was rattled, and that told me my act was working. By 9 o'clock he excused myself. "Long day," I said. "Think I'll turn in." Emma kissed me good night. Tyler smiled too widely again. "Sleep well, Frank." Upstairs, I checked everything one last time. The cameras were on, the trap was armed, the bait key gleamed in the drawer. Then I slid into bed, fully clothed, phone in hand, eyes fixed on the faint crack of light beneath my door. Every creak of the house felt louder than usual. The refrigerator hummed downstairs, the branches tapping against the window. But I kept my breathing steady, rehearsing my role. The old man asleep, oblivious, easy prey. By midnight, my pulse was pounding. My mind whispered doubts. What if the camera battery died? What if the trap failed? What if Emma never believed me? But then I pictured Tyler's smug grin, his fingers tapping the dinner table as he asked about my death, his voice calling me the old fool to someone on the phone. And the fear hardened into resolve. I wasn't just setting a trap for Tyler. I was weaving a net that would finally close around him. And when it snapped shut, Emma would see the truth, not in my words, but in glitter, in video, in Tyler's own downfall. That night, lying in the dark, I wasn't a victim waiting for the blow. I was a man waiting for justice to walk through his door. The house was so still that night it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. I lay in bed, eyes closed, every muscle tense, my phone hidden under the pillow streaming the live feed from my cameras. For hours, nothing moved. I almost began to wonder if Tyler had postponed his plan, or worse, discovered my trap. Then, at exactly 2:43 a.m., the old wooden stair whispered. My heart thudded once. Hard, but I forced my breathing to remain slow and steady, the rise and fall of a man knocked out by his sleeping pills. Through the faint crack of light under my door, I saw the shadows shift. Tyler was moving carefully, like a man who had practiced this route in his head a dozen times. The live camera feed on my phone confirmed it. There he was, entering the hallway, dressed in dark clothes, shoes off, moving with the precision of a burglar. He paused at my door, hand hovering on the knob. For 30 long seconds he stood there, listening. My pulse hammered, but I didn't move. Finally the knob turned. The door creaked open a sliver. His silhouette filled the doorway, backlit by the nightlight in the hall. He stood frozen, watching me. I could feel his eyes on my chest, counting breaths, judging whether the pills had truly knocked me out. Satisfied, he slipped inside. Tyler moved with predatory confidence now. He crossed the room soundlessly, every step calculated. My cameras caught him glancing at my bed one more time, then focusing on the dresser. I wanted to sit up, to shout, to end it right there, but I couldn't. Not yet. The evidence wasn't complete until he reached into that drawer. He crouched low, hands steady, and pulled it open. My stomach twisted as I watched, through both the crack in the door and the camera feed, the very scene I had rehearsed in my mind. He scanned the contents quickly, eyes locking onto the dummy key I had placed front and center. He reached in, and nothing happened. My chest seized. The glitter bomb didn't go off. The drawer slid open smoothly, and Tyler plucked the dummy key from inside, holding it triumphantly between his fingers. Cold fear washed over me. Had I miscalibrated the spring? Had the trap jammed? Without the explosion, there was no undeniable proof, no physical evidence. Just my word against his, and Emma's loyalty to him was still strong. On the camera feed, Tyler's face broke into a smile, cruel and confident. He turned toward the closet, where the safe waited. Panic clawed at me. If he opened the closet, if he used that fake key, the whole plan would unravel. Emma would wake to find her husband in my room, and Tyler would spin another lie, say he heard a noise, say he was protecting us. Without the glitter, there would be no spectacle, no humiliation, nothing to shatter her blind faith. My hand tightened on the phone under my pillow. For a moment, I truly believed I had failed. All my careful planning, the hours of preparation, the years of experience undone by a spring that refused to snap. Tyler moved closer to the closet. My pulse roared in my ears. Every instinct screamed at me to leap up, to confront him, but I forced myself still. If I broke character now, I'd lose everything. And then, just as his hand brushed the closet handle, fate shifted. The fishing line I had tied earlier, the one connected to the drawer, finally tugged loose. A stack of magazines I'd balanced toppled to the floor with a loud thud. Tyler jumped, startled. His hand flew back toward the drawer to steady it exactly where the glitter bomb's trigger waited. Boom! The sound was muffled but unmistakable. Silver and gold glitter erupted in a glorious cloud, coating his face, his clothes, even the floor around him. He stumbled back, coughing, blinking through sparkling dust. The relief that surged through me was almost painful. The trap had worked just a moment later than planned. But in that brief delay, I had tasted real defeat. I had felt, with bone-deep certainty, what it would mean to lose to let him win, to let Emma remain blind. As he flailed, muttering curses, I sat up in bed with my best impression of startled confusion. "What on earth is going on?" I croaked, flicking on the lamp. Tyler froze, caught in the glow of light, like a rat exposed. Glitter clung to every inch of him, sparkling like damning evidence. But the moment of triumph didn't erase the truth that still echoed in my chest. For those few minutes as he held that key, I had believed everything was lost. And maybe, in some ways, it still was. Because no matter how much glitter covered his lies, Emma was about to walk in, and what she chose to believe could make or break both of us. The blast of glitter still hung in the air when Emma's footsteps thundered down the hall. I sat on the edge of my bed, lamp blazing, staring at the scene I'd carefully engineered. Tyler, dripping in silver and gold, caught red-handed, or maybe glitter-handed beside my dresser. Emma burst through the doorway, robe half-tied, hair wild from sleep. "Dad?" she cried. Then her eyes fell on her husband. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Tyler, what on earth?" Tyler spun toward her, stammering. I heard a noise. I thought someone was breaking in. I came to check." "Covered in confetti?" I asked softly. My tone was calm, but inside my chest my heart hammered. This was the moment everything depended on. Emma's eyes darted from the open drawer to the glitter coating Tyler's face. "What were you doing in Dad's room at 3 in the morning?" Tyler's jaw worked, but no words came. Finally he blurted, "I was looking for medicine for you, Emma. You were tossing and turning. I thought he might have something to help you sleep." I tilted my head, playing my part with careful innocence. "Emma, sweetheart, you know where I keep my medicine. In the bathroom cabinet. Always have." Silence stretched heavy between us. Emma's eyes narrowed. Tyler wiped at his glittering hair, only managing to spread it further down his neck. His hands shook. I must have been confused," he muttered. "Half asleep." "Half? Asleep?" Emma snapped, her voice sharp with suspicion I'd never heard before. "You look wide awake to me." Tyler tried to step toward her, but she recoiled, her arms crossing over her chest. For the first time, I saw at the crack in her trust, the doubt I had prayed for. But I knew Tyler. He wasn't the kind to give up easily. He'd spin lies until the world bent in his favor. That's why I needed my hidden card. "Emma," I said gently, reaching for my phone on the nightstand. "There's something you should hear." Tyler's head snapped toward me, panic flashing across his glitter-dusted face. "Frank, don't—" Emma cut him off. "Don't what?" I opened the voice recorder and pressed play. Tyler's own voice filled the room, clear as daylight. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios, the whole thing. Serious money here." Emma froze. Her mouth fell open. Tyler lunged forward, but I held the phone high. "Stop!" Emma barked, her eyes blazing. "Let me hear this." I pressed play again. His voice dripped from the tiny speaker, damning him word by word. "Tomorrow night's perfect. Emma's at her book club. I already have the safe key. The old fool keeps everything in there. Cash, jewelry, documents. We're set." Emma covered her mouth with both hands, tears welling. She looked at Tyler as if he were a stranger. You plan to rob my father?" No, it's not what it sounds like," Tyler pleaded, glitter cascading from his hair like proof of guilt. I was venting, exaggerating. "Those guys I owe money to, they've been pressuring me. I said stupid things I didn't mean." "Stupid things?" Emma's voice cracked. "You called my dad the old fool. You said you already had his key." The recording continued mercilessly. "Those guys aren't patient. If this doesn't happen soon, I'm in serious trouble." "Hell." Emma's knees buckled, and she gripped the doorframe for support. "Gambling debts?" she whispered. "All this time." Tyler reached for her arm. Emma, listen to me. I did it for us. To protect you. I had no choice. She jerked away, eyes burning with betrayal. No choice? You had a choice every single day, Tyler, and you chose lies. I lowered the phone, letting silence settle. For once, I didn't need to say anything. Tyler's own voice had exposed him far better than I ever could. Emma's gaze shifted to me. Dad, how long have you known? I swallowed hard. Since 2 nights ago. I heard him on the phone. I had to be sure, Emma. I had to protect you as much as myself. Tears slid down her cheeks. She shook her head slowly as if trying to wake from a nightmare. Tyler, desperate, turned his fury on me. This is your fault, old man. You turned her against me. His glitter-coated fists clenched at his sides. But Emma stepped between us, her shoulders squared. No, Tyler, you did that yourself. Her voice was steady now, strong. You broke my trust. You tried to steal from my father. You lied to me over and over. Tyler's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The cameras on my nightstand blinked silently, capturing every second, every word. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt the balance shift. The net I'd woven was closing, not just around Tyler's body, but around his lies. Emma could see him clearly now, not as the husband she thought she loved, but as the thief he had become. I leaned back slightly on the bed, letting the moment breathe. The glitter, the recording, the evidence, it was all there, undeniable. My hidden card had been revealed, and it sparkled brighter than any lie Tyler could muster. But I also knew this wasn't the end. A cornered man is dangerous, and Tyler had just been cornered in the worst possible way by truth, by betrayal, and by the wife who now looked at him with nothing but fury. And as much as I wanted to believe justice had arrived, I braced myself, because the next move Tyler made could still destroy us all. For a long moment, the only sound in my bedroom was Emma's ragged breathing and the faint rustle of glitter as Tyler shifted his weight. My daughter stood there, caught between disbelief and fury, staring at the man she thought she knew. Tyler broke first. Emma, don't listen to him. Your dad's been poisoning you against me from the start. He hates me. He's jealous because you finally have someone else in your life. Emma's voice shook, but it was steady with anger. Jealous? My father opened his home to us. He fed us. He gave us a roof when you lost your job. And you repay him by calling him names and plotting to rob him? Tyler's face darkened, glitter sparkling like a cruel spotlight on every twitch of his jaw. He stepped toward her, hands out like he could pull her back into his lies. It wasn't like that. I was desperate. Those debts. I had no way out. I rose slowly from the bed. You had choices, Tyler. You could have told Emma the truth. You could have asked for help. Instead, you decided to make me your mark. Oath. He swung his glare toward me. You think you're so clever? Setting up childish traps with glitter? You humiliated me in front of my wife? That glitter, I said quietly, is the truth sticking to you, and it won't wash off so easily. Emma's voice cracked like a whip. How much do you owe? Tyler hesitated. How much? She shouted, her eyes blazing. Finally, he muttered, 47,000. Emma staggered as though struck. 47? My God, Tyler. And you hid it from me? You brought me into Dad's home while planning to drag me into your mess? He reached for her again. Emma, I was protecting you. If those guys came after me, I didn't want you caught up in it. I thought if I could just get Dad safe. Her hand shot up, stopping him cold. Don't you dare. Don't you dare use the word protect. You weren't protecting me. You were using me. I saw it then, the moment her loyalty shifted. For weeks, I'd been the suspicious father, the obstacle. But now, her eyes cut through the fog. She saw him for who he truly was. Tyler sensed it too. His voice turned sharp, desperate. Emma, think about this. Without me, you'll have nothing. You can't survive on your library paycheck. Half of everything we own is mine. You walk away, I'll fight you for it. Emma let out a bitter laugh. Half of what, Tyler? Half of the debt you racked up? Half of the lies? You've already destroyed everything we had. He faltered, glitter drifting from his hair like snow, marking him with every movement. For the first time, he looked small. But then he tried one more turn. He swung back to me, his voice dripping venom. "This is what you wanted, isn't it, old man? You wanted her to hate me. You set me up. You planted that recording. I cut him off. "That was your voice, Tyler. Your words. Your plan. I didn't need to twist anything. You condemned yourself." Emma's voice rose again, firm, decisive. "Enough. Get out, now." He blinked at her, stunned. "What?" "You heard me," she said. Her voice was steel now. "Pack your things. Leave this house. You're not my husband anymore." His bravado collapsed into anger. He pointed at me. "This isn't over. You think you've won? I'll get my share. I'll drag you both through court." Emma stepped closer, her voice low but lethal. "And with what money, Tyler? You owe nearly 50 grand to dangerous people. You've got no job, no savings, nothing. The only thing you're leaving with tonight is glitter in your hair and shame on your back." For a heartbeat, I thought he might lash out. His fists clenched, his chest heaved, his eyes darted toward the dresser, as though he still dreamed of what might be inside. But the fight drained from him as Emma crossed her arms, unflinching. He muttered something under his breath, then shoved past her, leaving a trail of sparkling dust through the hallway. We listened as he crashed into the guest room, throwing clothes into bags, cursing under his breath. Emma sank into the chair by my bed, her shoulders trembling. "Dad," she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I brought him here. I put you in danger." I placed a hand on hers. "Sweetheart, don't blame yourself. He fooled you because you loved him. That's what liars do, they use love as cover." Her tears fell freely now, glitter on the carpet reflecting in her eyes. "I don't even know who I married." "You'll find out who you are without him," I said softly. "And that will be enough." A few minutes later, Tyler stomped out of the house, slamming the front door behind him. The sound echoed like a final verdict. The cameras had captured everything. The glitter coated him like a brand, and Emma's heart, though broken, was no longer blind. The corner had closed in on him, tighter than any trap I could build. But as I looked at my daughter, I knew our ordeal wasn't finished yet, because men like Tyler rarely disappear quietly, and the storm of karma was only just beginning. The slam of the front door echoed through the house long after Tyler was gone. Emma sat across from me at the kitchen table the next morning, her coffee untouched, her eyes swollen from crying. She whispered, "It's over, Dad. It has to be." "All?" But I shook my head. With men like Tyler, it's never over until the truth is nailed down so tight no lie can wriggle free. That afternoon I drove to the precinct with my phone in my pocket and a folder of notes under my arm. Detective Hall, an old acquaintance from my days as an investigator, greeted me with a raised brow. "Frank Miller," he said, shaking my hand. "Haven't seen you in years. What brings you in?" I set the phone on his desk and pressed play. Tyler's voice spilled out. "Yeah, it's me. Everyone's asleep. The old man's loaded. I found bank statements, investment portfolios. Emma's at her book club Tuesday. Perfect timing. I already have the safe key." Hall leaned back, listening, his expression tightening. "Clear as day," he said when the recording ended. "Intent, opportunity, motive. And you've got video too?" "2 angles," I said, sliding over a flash drive. "Motion activated. Shows him entering my bedroom, opening my drawer, getting blasted by a glitter bomb I rigged." Hall chuckled despite himself. "Glitter bomb? That's a new one." "Messy," I admitted, "but effective. He'll be picking sparkles out of his hair for a month." Hall sobered. "We can charge him with attempted theft, elder abuse, maybe conspiracy, if we can identify the accomplice he was talking to. It's solid." I left the station lighter than I'd felt in weeks. For the first time, Tyler's lies weren't just bouncing between Emma and me, they were in the hands of the law. Word travels fast in a small town. Within days, Mrs. Alvarez next door asked, "Frank, was that your son-in-law I saw sneaking out at 3 in the morning?" My Ring camera caught him pacing the block. She offered to send me the clip. Another nail in his coffin. Emma filed for divorce the following week. Tyler, still scrambling to cover his debts, didn't contest. He couldn't. Every lawyer in town had already heard the gossip. The son-in-law caught glitter, covered at his father-in-law's safe. Even if he tried to fight, his reputation was ruined before the ink on the papers was dry. The creditors weren't quiet either. One afternoon, a black SUV idled at the end of my street. Two men inside sat watching Tyler's old car, still parked outside our house. I walked right up to them, my back straight. "You're looking for Tyler Cobb," I said. The driver lowered his sunglasses. "You know him?" "Used to," I replied. "He doesn't live here anymore. And if he owes you money, you'd better get in line behind the police." They drove off, leaving tire marks on the asphalt. Tyler had made enemies everywhere, gamblers, collectors, even his own wife. And now, with the law circling, he was out of options. 2 weeks later, Detective Hall called me. "We've got him, Frank." Pulled him over in Columbus trying to pawn stolen jewelry from another burglary. Still had glitter in the seams of his jacket. Prosecutors are licking their chops. When I told Emma, she sat down hard at the table, relief washing over her face. "So it's really over," she whispered. "Yes," I said gently. "This time it's over." The punishment didn't come in one blow, it came in pieces. The arrest, the court dates, the creditors circling like vultures, the neighbors whispering behind his back. Emma's lawyer froze what little money he had left, and the judge granted her full control of the divorce settlement. All Tyler got was a mountain of debt, a record, and the lingering sparkle of shame that no shower could wash away. And me? I got my house back, my peace, my daughter's trust. The irony wasn't lost on me. Tyler thought he could play me for a fool. He thought age meant weakness, that kindness meant blindness, but in the end it was his arrogance that undid him. The same glitter he cursed as humiliation turned out to be his brand, his mark of shame. He walked into my trap certain he was the predator, but he walked out stamped as prey. I sat on my porch one evening, the sun setting over the quiet street, when Mrs. Alvarez walked by. She grinned. "Heard your son-in-law's headed to county jail. Guess your security system worked better than any alarm company." I laughed, a deep, satisfied sound. Sometimes justice just needs a little sparkle. Oh, the house was quiet again. For weeks the silence had felt threatening, every creak a reminder that Tyler might be creeping through my halls. But now, that same silence felt like a blessing. Peace had returned, and with it came a new rhythm for Emma and me. She moved into her old bedroom, not the guest room she once shared with him. At first, she cried herself to sleep more nights than I could count. I'd hear her muffled sobs through the walls, and I'd sit at my kitchen table long past midnight feeling helpless. But little by little, the tears came less often. Emma threw herself into work at the library. She picked up extra shifts, started leading children's story hour, and came home talking about the books she'd rediscovered. I could see her finding pieces of herself again, pieces that had been buried under Tyler's lies. One Saturday morning, she came downstairs dressed neatly in slacks and a sweater, her hair tied back, eyes brighter than I'd seen in months. "Dad," she said with a shy smile, "I've been offered a full-time position. Benefits, retirement, the whole package." I stood up and hugged her. "I'm proud of you, sweetheart. You're standing on your own 2 feet. She squeezed me tightly. "I thought I needed him, Dad. I thought without Tyler I couldn't build a life. But I was wrong. You always told me I was stronger than I knew." I didn't tell her how many nights I had doubted myself too, how often I wondered if I'd done enough, if maybe my suspicion had poisoned things between us. Instead, I just said, "You'll never walk alone, Emma. Not as long as I'm here." The house changed too. I replaced the old safe with a newer model, upgraded the locks, and installed cameras with Detective Hall's advice. The neighbors started calling me the security whisperer. Mrs. Alvarez even asked me to help set up her new Ring doorbell. Word had gotten around about my glitter bomb, and though people laughed, they also admired it. "Frank," Mrs. Henderson down the block said one afternoon, "if you ever patent that thing, I'll be your first customer." I chuckled, sipping my coffee. Not sure there's a big market for father-in-law glitter bombs, but I'll keep it in mind. Life began to feel normal again. Simple dinners, Emma reading in the living room while I worked on crosswords, Sunday walks in the park. The tension that had once choked this house was gone, replaced by something steadier, healthier. 3 months after Tyler's arrest, Emma's divorce was finalized. She came home with the papers in hand, set them on the table, and exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. "It's done," she said simply. We sat together that evening, eating homemade lasagna, and I realized something. The storm had passed. Tyler's lies, his debts, his betrayal, they no longer lived in this house. I also realized something else. I hadn't just protected myself. I had given my daughter the chance to see the truth with her own eyes. If I'd confronted Tyler too soon, she might have defended him, clung to him, but by waiting, by gathering evidence, by letting him walk into his own trap, I'd freed her. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Emma joined me on the porch swing. She leaned against my shoulder, just like she had when she was a child. "Dad," she whispered, "thank you for not just keeping me safe, but for showing me what strength really looks like." I swallowed the lump in my throat and kissed the top of her head. "Strength doesn't always look like a fight, Emma. Sometimes it looks like patience. Sometimes it looks like letting the truth speak louder than our anger." "Ah," she nodded, her eyes glistening. "I don't know what the future holds, but I know one thing: I'll never ignore the warning signs again." I smiled. That's all I could ask for. As spring settled into summer, the air filled with the smell of cut grass and blooming flowers, my house, once marked by tension and betrayal, now felt like a place of healing. The glitter was long vacuumed away, but in my mind I could still see it sparkling in the air that night, the moment lies exploded into light and truth finally shone. Peace had returned, and with it came dignity. Not the kind that shouts or demands, but the quiet dignity of a man who refused to be fooled, and a daughter who found her way back to herself. For the first time in months, I slept through the night, the weight lifted from my chest. And when I woke to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of Emma humming in the kitchen, I knew we had survived the storm, and we were stronger for it. It's strange how quickly life can shift from chaos back to calm. Just a few months ago, I was lying awake at night, heart pounding, listening for footsteps in my own home. Now I sit at my kitchen table in the morning sun, reading the paper, the smell of coffee filling the air, while Emma hums softly as she gets ready for work at the library. The storm has passed. The house feels light again, filled not with suspicion but with trust. Sometimes I catch myself replaying those nights, the sound of Tyler's whisper through the vent, the sight of him glitter-covered and caught in the act. I don't relive them with fear anymore. Instead, I see them as proof that even in our later years we aren't powerless. We still have sharp eyes, sharp minds, and the ability to stand our ground. Tyler thought kindness was weakness. He thought patience meant ignorance. He thought an old man like me couldn't possibly notice the small details, the misplaced folder, the drawer left ajar, the change in his tone when he talked about my death. He thought I was just a lonely widower, desperate for company, too blind to see betrayal even when it sat across the dinner table. But what Tyler never understood is this: people reveal themselves if you're willing to listen. Lies have a rhythm, greed has a smell, desperation leaves fingerprints. All I had to do was watch, wait, and give him enough rope to hang himself. And when the truth exploded in that glittery blast, it wasn't just justice for me, it was a wake-up call for Emma. She saw her husband's mask slip. She heard his own voice betraying him. She realized that love built on lies isn't love at all, just manipulation dressed in pretty words. Now, as she rebuilds her life, I see her growing stronger. She carries herself differently, no longer leaning on Tyler's empty promises. She works hard, smiles more, and when she talks about the future, her voice is steady. That's the real victory, not the arrest, not the gossip around town, not even the satisfaction of seeing Tyler dragged through court. The real victory is watching my daughter rediscover her dignity. And for me, I've learned something too. Getting older doesn't mean surrendering your awareness or your strength. It doesn't mean being blind to danger or helpless against betrayal. If anything, age is an advantage. It teaches you patience. It sharpens your sense for patterns, for truth hidden between lies. Yes, I may move a little slower these days. My back aches if I sit too long. My memory isn't perfect. I misplace my reading glasses more often than I'd like to admit. But when it comes to protecting what matters, When it comes to standing guard over my family, I am not weak. I am not blind. I am not done. Sometimes neighbors still chuckle about my glitter bomb. Mrs. Alvarez likes to tell the story at block parties. Frank caught his son-in-law red-handed, well, glitter-handed. People laugh, but then they lean in, serious, and ask, "How did you know? How did you catch him before it was too late?" I always answer the same way. Because I paid attention. In the end, justice didn't come from anger. It didn't come from yelling or fists. It came from patience, evidence, and letting the truth shine so bright it couldn't be denied. Now I sit here, watching Emma sip her coffee across the table, sunlight catching her hair, and I ask myself the same question I'll leave with you. If someone you welcomed into your home, someone you trusted like family, turned on you with lies and greed, would you notice the signs in time? And more importantly, would you have the courage to act before it was too late?